Welcome, what is up? Thank you for tuning back into the Chaos Lair. Of course, I'm Chris Chaos here with your Raw 411 for your Raw After Mania. And, wow. It's a fantastic show. And don't let Raw talk bring you down. From what the show was, especially the whole first segment. I don't want to mention any names. Roman Reigns comes out. And by the way, after like a 3-minute period where the crowd is just going crazy, I'm thinking to myself, is the WWE just letting the fans just try to work it all out of their system now? That's not going to work, and it didn't. So I don't know that that's what they were doing. I guess they were just trying to give time for the fact that the Undertaker, at least it looks like he's retired. I'm going to say, yeah, the Undertaker's retired. Personally, that's how I feel. And they just gave it time to just be for a little bit. And then Roman's music hit, and then the crowd went at him. And a buddy of mine, I looked on Twitter, a guy that I used to wrestle with on shows back when I actually wrestled years ago, said that and actually he's a promoter now, said that Roman Reigns is the most hated wrestler in the world right now. I disagree. And then another guy who was also a worker said that didn't sound like heat, it sounded like hatred. I thought, well, I told him you gotta remember who that crowd was really consisted of. And there's also something people got to remember, and I told him this as well, is there's a fine line between hatred and heat. Like pure hatred and heat. I mean, that is a fine line to walk. I think it's just more heat than it is anything. I think it's just them expressing their, whatever. Their unhappiness with Roman Reigns. In the palm of my hand. It's what he said it, or he mumbled it, not in the mic, but just kind of to himself, but he looked at the mic when he said it, in the palm of my hands. And it was so funny, because it really was true. Go back and watch the promo. I mean, it was fantastic. And then 5 words. This is my yard now. Mic drop. Let's move on. The Hardys versus the Club. I kind of figured that this was going to happen earlier today, and then it did. Of course, I didn't, say anything publicly, tweet or anything. I just thought, whatever. It happened. The Hardys retained. Neville, just fantastic heel promo. Just fantastic. I love a double. I really do. But I think that the right call was made last night to have Neville go over and keep the title. I really think, because I think Neville can keep that title for a while. And there's so many guys on the Cruiserweight roster that he can have really good stories with and, matches with on pay-per-views that, maybe you give him 2 more months and let it and change it, give it to somebody else. But for right now, Neville is just killing it. The Mustafa Ali, it was on correct Corey Graves, which I don't normally ever do or wouldn't ever do, but I'm going to. Instead of it wasn't a springboard Spanish fly, it was a springing Spanish fly. But I'm just picking hairs there. Neville goes up for that red arrow for the end of the match. Sees that that's what the fans wanted to see. Jumps down, Rings of Saturn, tap out, let's go home. We see Vince get out of limo. And I thought, they should just cut his music right after he comes out while he's on the stage and let them serenade him to the ring. Because they did it anyway. But they didn't. His music still played. And he's the boss for a reason. I thought, and I tweeted that he's going to get a massive amount of boos, or cheers and boos, because it's Vince and he knows how to do it. And he tried. He tried to get the boos. He got the cheers, definitely, but they just wouldn't bite on the boos. This is our show. We're taking it over, and they did. He mentioned that Steph's going to be out because she went through that table on Sunday, and she's hurt. So your new general manager is not Teddy Long, but Kurt Angle. I thought originally that they were going to wait a week before they brought him in and announced him as the general manager. That's why I hadn't really talked about it. But they went ahead and done it now because they're going ahead with the shaking things up, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Anyway, I mean, it is what it is. We'll see what that's all about, and they'll probably change it and come up with another name tomorrow night for it. Then we move into New Day and the debut to the main roster of the Revival. I'm not going to get into what New Day was wearing or why Big E had silhouettes of testicles all over his tights. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going there. But what I will say is the Revival showed up, showed out. I'm happy. I'm happy. They get a big win to set them on the right path. Another big moment to me personally for Raw. Evil Emma. Evil Emma. Evil Emma. Evil Emma. Evil Emma returns. Oh, I love Emma so much. The only person I have ever, that I know of, break in a wrestling match. I'm sitting, and I've told this story a couple of times, I'm sitting in the front row at an NXT show in Memphis, Tennessee. Their first time ever in Memphis. Emma versus Asuka. I think it's the opening match. And Emma's trying to get heat on Asuka, and Asuka tries to make a comeback. Emma cuts her off, and I yell, "Not today! You can't do it today! Not today! Come on, Emma!" And she just or something like that. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember what I said, but she had to cover her face because she was laughing so hard. Something that I'll always remember. That was just special to me. The 6-woman tag match, I thought that it was good. I thought that I think Emma is going to get the next shot at Bayley at Payback. And I thought that she should have got a win over Bayley since it's a 6-person or a 6-woman tag. Lots of moving parts. You get the win. It's about me. It's about Emma. So, but they didn't do that. It come down to Sasha and Charlotte, which I don't love. If anything, it should have come down to Bayley and Charlotte. That way the champion is actually represented, because I can't stress this enough. It can't always just culminate down to Charlotte and Sasha. It can't. And it feels like it always has, and it always will. I mean, just think about it over the last 6 months. It's always come down, except for at WrestleMania, it's always come down to Sasha and Charlotte since they started their feud last summer. And it's time to do something different. We got to shake stuff up. Hopefully, when we shake stuff up next week, we send a couple of women to SmackDown. We get a couple of women from SmackDown to come to Raw. That's what I'm hoping. Because those two divisions really, really need to be shook up very badly. Brock Lesnar. But Nia Jax beats down Charlotte because Charlotte gets pissed. And Nia starts to beat her, and Emma was like, "You know what? I'm going to let you have that." And she gets out. I just got back. I'm not going back on the injured list. Brock Lesnar comes out. Paul Heyman cuts an okay promo, except for he flubbed a couple of lines. But You know, he's still the greatest stick man probably ever, or one of them ever, but he flubbed some lines. He called out Roman Reigns because of the win he got last night, but instead of Roman, he got Braun Strowman. Braun come out and said he's going to take on Roman, and Brock's got his attention. And hopefully that after Brock sees what Braun does to Roman, Braun will have Brock's attention as well. Which is kind of dumb. Brock, excuse me, Brock, he smiles at him, and then he lays down the title like, come try me. And Braun, being Braun, apparently, is what they're making him out to be now, is backing away from the bigger I mean, it's a classic heel move, but then again, it is Brock Lesnar, so I guess we shouldn't look too much into it. Jericho interview, funny, puts the finger of Kevin Owens on the list, which I thought was great, which, by the way, still was the best spot of the whole match at WrestleMania. The finger. 1, 2. I popped big for that, bigger than I did anything else. Except for maybe the powerbomb on the apron, but just because I cringed when it happened, because it kind of hurt me, and it always does, to see that happen. Anyway, Jericho gets powerbombed through a table after the attack from Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe. And right there I knew that Jericho wasn't wrestling, and they were going to insert Finn Balor, because it just made the most sense. I thought they could do it with Nakamura, but I really hope they don't. I really hope they just leave it, with Finn, and, we'll find out if they did that. Enzo and Cass versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the number one contenders. Cesaro and Sheamus are your new number one contenders. Jinder versus Sami Zayn. This was one of those matches, again, where the heel comes in and just beats the crap out of Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn hits 2 moves, and he wins. I don't like the psychology behind it necessarily, but at this point it is what it is. Whatever. We move on to the main event: Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. The return of Finn Balor. Finn looked good. It looked like that time off did him a lot of good. I'm sure he had time for the rest of him to heal, much like his shoulder as well. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what we have tomorrow night, because this is the first time ever that we have had, or we will have, SmackDown live on Tuesday following WrestleMania. So there's no telling, since this is the first SmackDown after Mania, the first live SmackDown after Mania. I don't know how they're going to plan it, how they're going to work it. I'm just going to be excited for it. Just going to be thinking about it all day, probably. It's going to be hard to get some work done tomorrow while I'm thinking about this. But anyway. So, that is all that I've got for right now. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow. And as always, deuces. Cast out.